years to when this story took place. It spans a 2-year period, the years between 1220 and 1222. That's when a huge wolf suddenly appeared in the area surrounding Gubbio, and the residents of the town feared for their lives. For when that hungry wolf came out of its den and prowled around looking for food, no one felt safe. And at night, they were terrified when they heard his howl, that mournful howl at the moon. And some even insisted that they saw his shadow slinking across the moonlit wall that surrounded that city. Now, almost every day, some sheep were missing from the field, and no one doubted that it was the wolf who carried them away. Ever since that wolf appeared, the men who had to go out to the field now traveled in groups, arming themselves with pitchforks and spears as if they were going off to battle. But unfortunately, the time came when no one even dared to go outside the city gates for fear of that wolf. Now, when Brother Francis in nearby Assisi heard about this wolf, he felt sorry for the people of Gubbio, and so he set forth with his companions to meet this wolf. And when they arrived at the town gates, the townspeople who saw them whispered among themselves, seeing this strange band of men wearing these coarse robes belted at the waist with ropes. They were all barefoot, and they said, what possible good could these men do against that vicious wolf? But one of the townsfolk knew. He heard about Brother Francis. And he said, it was said that Brother Francis could understand the language of animals. And he was known to call every creature his brother and sister. And so the men came through the gates and they walked up to the town square. Brother Francis drew water from the well. He took a drink and passed the cup to his companions. And by this time, a crowd had gathered. And when the people came, Brother Francis engaged in conversation with them, and they told him how this wolf was terrorizing the town. They told him that this wolf was killing their sheep and even, unfortunately, killed some men. Brother Francis listened to them, and then he said simply, I will go to see this wolf. Well, they pleaded with him, no, you can't go. They warned him he would be killed, but he insisted that nothing would happen to him. And so, early the next morning, a group of townspeople accompanied Francis to the town gate. They wished him well, and he went through the gate, over the fields, into the woods, and there, in the shadow of the tall oaks and walnut trees, he saw the wolf's lair, and scattered all around were bones. Francis could sense that the wolf was near, so he stayed where he was, and suddenly there was an angry snarl and a growl, and that wolf sprang from the shadows, his mouth, his teeth bared, his mouth open. He began to bound toward Francis, and just as he was about to pounce, Brother Francis raised his hand in the sign of blessing and said, Brother Wolf, stop. Come to me under the grace of God. I mean you no harm. I come in peace. And right in mid-step, that wolf froze. He closed his mouth. With his ears pulled back, he slowly walked toward Brother Francis and sat down in front of him. Brother Wolf, Francis continued, the people of Gubbio are frightened, and they cry out against you. They said that you have done them wrong, and they wish you dead. But I wish to bring peace between them and you. I know that you carried away their sheep because you suffered from hunger, and I know that you were trying to protect yourself from harm when you attacked those men who came at you with weapons if I can promise you that you will never again experience hunger, will you pledge to me your faith that you will never harm another living creature? And the wolf inclined his head and wagged his tail, as if to say that he agreed and he understood. And so Francis put out his hand, and that wolf raised his great paw and placed it right on top of the brother's palm. And so the two of them walked toward Gubbio. Francis, with the wolf following close behind. They came to the gates of Gubbio, went through them, walked through the cobble streets, up to the town square. Francis sat down at the well, gave the wolf a drink. And by this time, of course, everyone heard the news that Brother Francis and the wolf were sitting in the town square. And so they came in droves, men, women, young, old, and they gathered around looking at them. And when a large crowd gathered, Francis stood up and said, "Friends, put away your fear. Brother Wolf here has pledged his faith to me that he will never harm anyone in any way whatsoever if you promise to feed him faithfully each day." Well, the people, of course, looked at each other. They were skeptical. They couldn't believe this for a second. But Francis continued to talk to them, and he talked to them until he finally convinced them in a way that touched their hearts. And they said, yes. They promised they would provide for him and welcome him without fear. And so Francis said, "Brother Wolf, again, before all these people, pledge to me your faith that you will keep the promise you made." And the wolf raised his ragged paw, and Francis put out his hand, and the wolf laid his paw on top of the hand of the brother Francis. And so it was done. From that day on, as long as that wolf lived within the walls of Gubbio, he was fed every day by the people. He wandered freely to the fields and within the streets of Gubbio until he died 2 years later of old age. And the people of Gubbio mourned for him, they grieved for him. And the legend has it that the wolf was given an honorable burial. And near or on that burial place or nearby, a church was erected. The Chiesa di San Francesco della Pace, the Church of St. Francis of Peace, was erected there. Now fast forward 650 years later, in the year 1872, renovations were done on that church. And under a slab near the church, they discovered the skeleton of a large wolf. And so they reburied it inside the church. And if you go to Gubbio today, you will see this unfold in living color. Thank you.